Welcome back to Jump Scare. I'm Betty.
And I'm Chad.
This week, we continue Wes Craven month with 2005's Cursed.
Ellie, watch out! Help me! Are you okay? Do you hear that? What's going on up there?
Ever since the other night, things are happening. Things I can't explain.
Ellie, what's wrong?
Just having a really bad day.
Can I help?
Last night, a young woman was attacked and killed.
Hey, buddy, you okay?
What was that?
My dog.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a regular dog.
Something's wrong.
The only way you can break the curse is to kill the person who started it all. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I needed to talk to you.
This film has very recognizable people. We have Christina Ricci,
Yep.
Jesse Eisenberg, Scott Baio. That name may or may not be recognizable to many. Who else is in this?
Milo Vichamali, whatever his name is, from This Is Us.
Oh, from Gossip Girl. I'm sorry, Gossip Girl, Jesus. Gilmore Girls.
See.
Do not hate me, Gilmore Girl fans. I'm a Gilmore Girl fan. Don't ask me why the fuck I'm thinking about Gossip Girl. Gilmore Girls, Joshua Jackson.
Yep.
Maya, who was a thing at some point. She's a singer.
Shannon Elizabeth.
Who's not in the movie?
I'll tell you who's not in the movie. These are all the people that were in the movie, filmed all their scenes, and then their part got cut. I wrote all this down. Ileana Douglas, Heather Langenkamp, Scott Foley, Omar Epps, Robert Forrester, who you'll remember from a lot of the movie Alligator, Jackie Brown, a ton of things. He's a great actor. I was curious to know what he was going to play. James Brolin and Corey Feldman were all in this movie originally, and they all had their scenes cut. So what the hell were all these people playing in this movie? Because this is literally a movie that, depending on which article you read, was either shot and reshot 4 or 5 times.
This movie was literally lived up to its name. It was fucking cursed.
Yep.
It was cursed. It's a Kevin Williamson, Wes Craven joint, another film where they've collaborated again.
And I see where, like, on paper, it would sound like a great idea. Hey, Kevin Williamson, Wes Craven, they revitalized the whole slasher genre. They brought back horror in the 90s. It's the 2000s. They've already finished the Scream series. Why don't we give werewolves a crack?
Someone else that was supposed to be in the film that also got fired, cut, Rick Baker. First of all,
Yeah.
Who's Rick Baker, you may ask, if you happen to not know anything about film history.
Or anything.
He's a makeup artist, and he's won a plethora, not one, not two, not three, many, Academy Awards, the highest award in his field for best makeup. He has also won a BAFTA, which is the equivalent over there in Europe for an Academy Award. He's won nothing but awards for his work on films, but yet you fire him and replace him with CGI.
Well, no, wait, you fire him and you replace him with Greg Nicotero and all the people from K&B.
Oh, yes. And then you fire those.
Have done a shit ton of amazing work over the years. And then you fire them and replace everything with CGI.
Which is just a slap to the fucking face. Okay. No wonder Rick Baker was like, obviously many years later, but he was like, I'm out. No one appreciates the practical effects and
The hard
makeup
work.
anymore. Which
Yeah.
is bullshit, because let me tell you, the werewolf in this film is
Who's-
disappointing. Like, there's one scene where there's a transformation happening, and it's like, okay, I'm not a huge American and London fan.
American Werewolf in
Werewolf
London?
what?
American Werewolf in London?
Yes, that's what I said. American
Okay,
Werewolf in
just
London.
checking.
That's what I meant. American Werewolf in London fan. But I could recognize that shit transformation, that amazing transformation is fucking, this is nothing, holds no fucking net to that. This transformation in this movie is just the worst.
Look, the transformation scene in Bad Moon Rising.
That's literally what I was going to say.
Was a little bit better than this one. And look, that one in Bad Moon Rising had like 1995 or 6 CGI going for it. And it still looked a little bit better, or not any worse than this one that was made nearly 10 years later.
It's just so terrible. It really ruins the movie. And you don't even know from a interview that Jesse Eisenberg had said that he doesn't even know what the original film looked like, what it was.
They've changed it so many times.
Because it was altered so many times. And it's like, we will never see that movie ever. We don't even know what it could have been. And
Well, it said they didn't even have the ending down before they started redoing the rest of the movie.
It's just so wild how...
Here's another thing. The werewolf was going to be played by Derek Mears, who's played the Predator at, Swamp Thing in the most recent series. He's good at playing the creatures like that, but then his part's probably totally gone. The only scene he might still be... Hello, Teddy. The only scene he might be in is the one scene in the elevator where you see hands reaching in to grab her.
That could have been anyone's hand.
It could have been what I'm saying. Since he was in the werewolf makeup at one point, they probably left that in. That's probably the only point he's in there.
The hand, even though it does look hokey because you're like, it doesn't match up, but it looks pretty good compared to what we see later on. It's just, and then I feel like the movie also is all over the place. It has a weird, like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. And I Know What You Did Last Summer, like the beginning, I guess maybe because they're like at a carnival and, there's like that whole like 4th of July celebration going on. They're at a carnival and Shannon, Elizabeth, and Maya get their palms read, and Portia de Rossi also in the film.
Back from Scream 2. Along with Joshua Jackson.
Yes. So, they got their favorites. They brought him back in to be in this film with, Portia de Rossi didn't have that, Rossi didn't have that large of a part. But she was scattered, kind of like sprinkled throughout the film, because we see her about 2 or 3 times in the film. Because she's the one, of course, you can't have a werewolf movie and not have a gypsy. It's like, that's a thing. Like, there's always going to be a gypsy or like some shaman or somebody that has like that old, like, the wisdom of the lore of the werewolf.
Yeah, somebody's got to be, there to explain what the werewolf is, because we've never heard of it before.
And, I don't know. But so we have this, opening where they get their hands read and it's beware, there's a beast after you, a beast. And then they hop in the car, whether it's later on or the next day, and they get into a car accident with Christina Ricci and Jesse Eisenberg, who are brother and sister in this version of the film. And they get into a car accident because, of course, that's, the wolf is going to attack them. You have to have the wolf attack at some point. And he goes after all of them, scratches the brother and sis, mauls Shannon Elizabeth because she was just by herself.
Yep. Maya took a different car home. She comes back into it later.
And then we have the whole, the transformation of both characters, Jesse Eisenberg and, sister Christina Ricci, and how they're going through it. Of course, Jesse Eisenberg, he's being, typical Jesse Eisenberg, the nerdy, outcast guy, who's all about, as soon as he has his first, like, I feel like 5 seconds later, he was like, I saw a wolf. And then he's like Googling,
I always love it in movies when they sit down at the computer and they're like, let me Google ancient werewolf texts and legends. Boop. First thing that comes up is the first thing they click on. It's exactly what they need.
That's,
How many times have you ever, the first thing that came up when you Googled it was exactly what you needed? It's hilarious. And then it always goes like, this is 2005. So most of it was probably, it might be on a little bit of, cable internet and that stuff, but probably most people were still using dial-up. And you get all these amazing graphics on the screen. There's animation going and all this. And it's like, I don't know. This doesn't seem like the computers I had back in 2005.
We did forget to mention Judy Greer is also in the film.
Yeah, everybody's in this damn movie.
Yeah, well, she's important because la la la. So Scott Baio in one version of the film. So Christina Ricci works for
Craig Kilborn.
Craig Kilborn, which
the time he was hosted. The time they started this movie, he was the host of the Late Late Show. By the time this movie came out, he was no longer hosting it and had moved on to something else. So at the time, it had been like 2.5 years since they'd started this.
Yeah, he was relevant, and you would have been like, "Oh yeah, Craig Kilborn, okay." And then when it came out, it was like, "Crickets, who the fuck is this guy?"
Who's this guy?
This is just a made up guy that she works for.
Why'd they get this guy whose show's been off the air for 2 years to be the host?
Yeah, or they just thought it was part of the movie, like just a character in the movie, and didn't even know that he was a real person that actually did that. But so you have, she works for the talk show and the night show, and she's the one that brings the guests on, and she kind of has the host. Scott Baio's going to be on for whatever the host is going to be on. I don't know. It's like you can't obviously be talking about Charles in Charge. It's been like 20 years, and he's coming on to talk about his projects, and then he's supposed to be the werewolf. Like, that would have been weird. I don't understand the whole Kevin Williamson like hokey let's make him the fucking werewolf.
I think at the
when it's
time,
like no one even knew who he was at the time. Like, certain people, obviously of a certain demographic, like age, we're gonna know. Oh, it's Charles in Charge. It's Jody. What is his name?
But I think he was trying to do it like it was going to be a surprise, and it was going to be like, oh, this is why Scott Baio disappeared off the face of the earth for years, is because he became a werewolf and he had to hide out. Ha ha ha. It was going to be kind of a meta joke, but I don't think it worked. And I think when they saw that in the movie, they were kind of like, I don't know.
So the people that fucked up the movie, along with one person that ended up, unfortunately, fucking many people's lives, is the Weinstein brothers. And
you would think that they would trust Craven and Williamson, since they had made them a shit ton of money with all the Scream movies.
Exactly.
You would think they would just hand them the money and go, turn in the movie when it's done. Thanks. And then just let that shit ride and just cash their checks.
Exactly. But no, of course, they had to put their fucking 2 cents, because they literally were putting in their 2 cents. They're producing the film, and they want their everything that they want in there, and asking for rewrites and reshoots 29,000 times.
And they're the geniuses who cut all the practical werewolf effects.
I also don't understand the logic. It's like, you're bleeding us dry. Not usually. The whole thing is you're supposed to turn a movie over quickly.
Yeah.
You're supposed to turn it over quickly. We need it in the theater. Shoot it. It has, 3 months or however the fuck it's going to take. And then let's fucking be done with it. Because all of that shit takes money. Film takes money. People, everyone working, the catering. It just adds up, every single little thing. Paying the fucking actors, the cameramen, like everything adds up, and it's a huge fucking bill. And you don't want to be spending 2.5 years on a fucking movie. This is not a Western. This is not some fucking epic. It's a fucking werewolf movie. It's a horror movie. And like you already mentioned, they already made them so much money on the whole first Scream, that it's just like, let them do and be, the fucking good team that they are. Yeah, whatever. But they had issues amongst them. But nevertheless, they were able to pop out something good of quality that's memorable. And this, unfortunately, is like deemed in history to be one of the worst movies.
Yeah, this movie, by the time they were done, they spent $90 to $100 million, depends on who you talk to or which article you read. And it ended up taking in about 30.
Yeah, it did terribly.
Yeah, so
it was a big bomb.
Yeah, it didn't even take in a third of its budget. Now, initially, if the original budget, I think, was supposed to be around $30 million, which was probably going to go towards mostly werewolf effects. And if they had kept that, they might have been able to make some money back because it would have been out faster. They could have, they would have made more money getting it out. And by 2005, the horror landscape was shifting from these kind of PG-13 horror movies, which is another thing. They originally shot an R-rated horror movie with a lot of graphic effects, and then they had to cut everything out of it so they could get a PG-13. The market was shifting at this point. You were starting to get Saw and everything come out, and it was shifting to the hardcore movies. This, if it had been out sooner, it might have been a success.
I can't get over the firing of Rick Baker. I mean, that's just like...
Yeah, how did you think that any practical effect... you fired him because you don't like his werewolf, because he doesn't apparently know shit about werewolves. And then you're going to hire Greg Nicotero, who's like, okay, he's in the A game too. He's in the A team. His werewolf wasn't good enough for you either. You need to replace that shit with CGI. But they did the same bullshit with the Thing remake. They're like, let's hire some people, let them do all these amazing practical effects, and then we'll just replace it with CGI. I don't understand it.
The other thing that kills me is like in 2018, there was a whole campaign of release a Craven cut. And because the Craven cut is out there, you can see it. It's just the ending was never shot, like you mentioned before. So it's like they're not going to release this movie without an ending. I wouldn't even mind if they released a whole movie and then the ending was just the fucking, the storyboards.
Yeah.
Of what happened. Or fucking someone come in and pull a freaking, animation on that shit.
They've done that with a lot of the old Doctor Who episodes that are literally, some of them were like, they were never recorded properly and they lost parts of them. So they will literally have the episode restored what they can, and then they animate sequences with the dialogue or whatever they can get or get people to fill in. Do that. It would be interesting to see. Just do an animated ending to it. And if you wanted to just put this out with another version of it, you put out the movie that was released. They released a PG-13 version, then they released an R version on DVD. Put those out and then just throw the actual initial cut with Craven on there too. You'll get people to buy it just to see that, They might make some money back on it. I know it's Patrick Lussier was the editor on almost all of Craven's stuff in the modern times, and he has said he has the footage. So just put it on a disc, guys. Call Scream Factory. They will be over there with a briefcase in a matter of minutes to pick that shit up.
Yeah, but because it's Miramax, like no one knows who owns like the fucking rights to it, and it literally just comes down to a rights issue. It's just one of those fucking things. So
it'll take 20 years for them another 20 years for them to resolve it. This will be one of those things that after everybody has, like all the Weinsteins are dead, someone who will finally inherit all their stuff will then release the stuff just to crank it out on whatever the format is at the time.
I'll watch it when I'm 90 years old.
We'll see it on 16K DVD stick or whatever it is they're releasing at the time.
It's going to be like liquid air.
Yeah, it's going to be a liquid they just inject into it, and you watch the movie that way.
Ew, yuck. I don't like it. So we really haven't discussed, we discussed all the bullshit of the film, but the film itself is kind, like I was mentioning before, it's kind of all over the place. It's the Williamson, it's all about the mystery. Who is it? Who's a werewolf? I'm going to leave some clues here. I'm going to leave some clues there. And, you're going
to try and misdirect a few times. And
you're going to have that whole thing happening. And while that's all occurring, because we know, obviously, that Christina Ricci and Jesse Eisenberg, just in the short amount of time, it's like a week or whatever, that they're showing some symptoms. She's becoming, she was the my hair's in a bun, executive, and I'm uptight with my suits kind of girl. And now she's coming to work and her hair is flowing. The men are just attracted to her because her pheromones have changed and she smells delicious.
And she's, she can sniff blood from a half mile away. She's going through the office like, I smell something delicious. What is that delicious smell? Tracks it down to the coworker with a nosebleed in the bathroom.
Yeah, so that's happening. Then Jesse Eisenberg is like fucking bulking out, like not really muscly, but he's just, his strength has gone up. He's He's a guy that went from like being the nerd in front of the computer to like joining the wrestling team.
Yeah, he's trying out for the wrestling team and kicking everybody's ass.
Yeah, because he has a whole issue with Milo. Milo is like a bully, and he's always definitely. There's another reason why they could not. Probably they really don't want to put any attention on this movie because there are a lot of gay bashing in the film.
Yeah,
I even hate to say gay bashing because I don't like that term, but
there's a lot of homophobia in it.
There is a lot of homophobia in it, which is so. I mean, I understand that was a thing, very big thing, and it's still a thing.
Kevin Williamson had gone through
exactly, and he grew up in that time frame, where that was just something that happened. That was just like the norm, and kids were doing that to other kids, and stupid shit was said.
Kind of cathartic for him to, get to have someone in there, that's doing that kind of stuff, get their ass kicked.
Yeah, so he has that whole thing, and that's why he's going to join the wrestling team so he could, beat the shit out of this guy and, just shut him down. Which, because he's an intelligent guy, he tells them, is it really you that you're really the gay one and you're just bashing me because you don't want to come out?
You can't admit it to yourself. Yeah, it's that kind of cliche of... Which, it's a cliche, but at the same time, it happens so many times. You find these preachers that run these churches that are anti-homosexual, and they almost always turn out to get caught with a boy at some point. And you're like, oh, yeah, you were gay the whole time. That's why you were doing it. And it's the same thing in this, but it happens, so it's not totally out of line.
And, Joshua Jackson is the boyfriend to Christina Ricci's character, and... Joshua Jackson is looking delicious. Pacey has a little beard going on, and, Pacey's walking around with this is all in LA. So, of course, there's wolves about, like kind of like a stereotypical, there's underlining thing of like wolves being in the industry, that whole thing. So that's occurring, and he's like, he works for like, not like a Ripley's Believe It or Not, but like some club that's coming out where they're going to have...
He's doing a horror club, basically.
Yeah, which he has like all kinds of memorabilia from certain films, and...
He's got the cane from Stephen King's Storm of the Century.
But it's really... supposed to be like, what is it, Van Helsing's cane or something?
Well, it's actually from the werewolf movie, the cane from the werewolf movie, but it's really the one from Storm of the Century.
So all kinds of stuff like that, and
he's got a pinhead statue.
Yeah, it's not a very good statue.
No, but look at the budget they had. They only had $100 million.
They went on to the CGI, and it looks like the CGI cost $5.
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't know how you spend that much money and it still looks terrible.
It's so wild because when you watch like the first season, like Eccleston, like Christopher Eccleston's like Doctor Who, right? It's like the CGI is so far behind because over there they're a little behind with the CGI, right? So it just looks so bad. But it's around the same time frame this movie came out. So it just looks terrible. I mean, I know that we were just like beating it with a dead horse, but
this was around the time everybody was trying to switch from film to video too. Everything was going to be shot digitally, and they hadn't really figured out yet that trying to do the digital effects on digital, it didn't work as well. When they were translating it and putting it on film, you had that extra layer of like, the film was so much, crisper and more higher definition. When you put the effects in with it, you had to kind of make it look better to make it look up to that. When you're shooting it on video, it's, they just kind of went, well, there it is. That's how it is. They didn't seem to be too concerned about that.
So there's someone else that's going around killing people, killed Shannon Elizabeth, killed, Maya, killed whatever. And then you find out that it's the Judy Greer's character, who's a publicist to Scott Baio.
Which I'm pretty sure in the original cut of this, it would have just been Scott Baio doing all the stuff that she's doing.
Or they were doing it together.
Yeah.
But, yes. And then she's doing it because she's like, she had sex with, Joshua Jackson because he was a ladies' man. And, he's giving it all up for Christina Ricci. Like, he's like, I'm done with this life. I want to settle down with you, whatever, because there's something he just can't pinpoint. Like, oh, he's turned the corner around on her. And, she's the one. And lo and behold, it's Judy Greer is totally in love with fucking Joshua Jackson because they had sex like once or twice. And I guess it must have been real good sex because, and she contracted, the
werewolf.
Lycanthropy, whatever.
Lycanthropy.
Via sexual intercourse. Even though he was wearing a condom. Because she does mention that.
Says they're not always that effective.
So now she's a werewolf, and she's CGI werewolfing all over the place, trying to kill Christina Ricci because gotta get the competition out of the way. And they go and there's a whole fight with them
in the crazy, weird looking horror nightclub, which I'm sure they thought was all very meta, but it just comes across as weird.
And she gets killed. The police come in, they kill her. Because of course you have like a fucking huge ass fuck werewolf going around killing people, trying to kill you. You're going to shoot it like 5,000 times. And you're like, wait a second. Jesse Eisenberg, he is now back home with Christina Ricci, and
they're just getting worse with the werewolf stuff.
He's not. He was getting worse. At first, it was like he wasn't. And I thought, oh, it's because they killed Judy Greer, and Judy Greer is the one who made him, because the whole werewolf lore is like, whoever makes you is, if they die, then you're going to be turned back to a human. But lo and behold, it was Joshua Jackson, which they did find out it was Joshua Jackson earlier, but Joshua Jackson is the one who made both of them, because he decided, you know what? I need this girl to be part of my life forever, and we're going to be a werewolf couple. And she wasn't down.
Werewolf power couple.
Yeah, she wasn't down about that. She was not into that. She was like, no. And then once he was like, we're going to have to kill your brother, she was like, no, bitch, that's not happening. I already, well, you done. And then she kills him. And then, and then Jesse Eisenberg goes into the fucking sunset with Milo Flamingo, always want to fuck up his name, Milo V. And Milo V's ex-girlfriend, who Jesse Eisenberg is trying to hit from the beginning of the movie, he's trying to hit on and get with because he has a crush on her, and they're all going to be, happy going down the fucking street, and then the movie ends. And it's just like, what is this movie? Like, what did I just watch? It's all over the place.
Yeah, that's the problem with it. It's just, I can see where you had a good idea, and I can see where that they thought this was going to work out well. Because like I said, it's the early 2000s. You just came off the success of Scream. If they had just left him alone, maybe it would have been terrible. Who knows? Maybe they would have been like, it'd have been one of those things where they were so, thought they couldn't do any wrong. They were going to do this crazy stuff, and it wouldn't turn out well. But we'll never really know.
We'll never know. Well, this concludes our episode, because we're not going to even throw out how many knives, because this movie deserved no knives. It deserved a big werewolf fuck you. That's what it deserved. No, it's unfair to Craven. It really sucks for Craven, because it's just like, he has so many films that are like blah. And then people always talk about Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream. But he did so much more than that. Like Swamp Thing. I love Swamp Thing.
Yeah, that was a great one of his. And, when they talk about the Hilltop...
Summer of Fear, guys. Summer of Fear.
Now, Invitation to Hell, not so much.
No. I want my invitation back.
Yeah. He's had some good ones, and then he's had some highs, and he's had some lows, and this was one of the lows.
This was one of those, but I feel like I'm not going to say that it was his low. His name is on it, and that really sucks, and that's why people are deeming it that it's his low. But it's really the Miramax and the Weinstein brothers low, because they fucked it up.
Yeah, if they'd left
he didn't fuck it up.
I'd like to have seen his version of it, so we could have said for sure whether or not this was his and Williamson's fault. Did they make a bad movie, or did the Weinsteins make a bad movie? It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
In terms of that, I'd just go ahead and give it 1.5 knives.
I also give it 1.5 knives.
It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's coherent at least, and for the most part, there's a few weird things here and there. But if you don't know any of the backstory behind it and you watch it, it's an okay PG-13 werewolf movie.
It has a ton of people I like, and I like to see them on the screen, and I like that they got some money for it.
That's about it. It's like, well, it's totally forgettable though, because I had seen this when it came out, and then I saw it again when it came out on DVD or Blu-ray. But when I watched it again, I couldn't remember half of it. I didn't know what the hell. I was like, I don't even remember any of this.
As soon as I finished watching it, I immediately forgot about it. And that was just like 2 days ago. So that it's saying a lot right there.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot. Thank you so much for joining us in our Wes Craven month, celebrating the birth, the life, the man that was Wes Craven. Stay tuned to the horror.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.